Good day, dear students. In the previous class, we were talking about alangaras, how to use them, and how not to abuse alangara. There is a reason why the aestheticians formulated rules how to use for alangara or how to use alangara properly. The reason was that there was a time in Sanskrit poetry when people who aspired to be poets, they were not talented enough, but they really wanted to be poets. So they started composing poems and started imitating the great poets, with the result that they made use of a lot of faults. And it was almost like one following the other, imitating the other. It was like a Gaddariga Pravaham, means the flow of the goats one after the other through the beaten path, which means that there was nothing unusual about their writing, and because of that, they formulated rules for Alangara. We have been going through the different types of Alangaras and the rules for Alangaras. Here also we'll continue with the rest of the uh, Alangaras. Okay, the rules for Alangaras. So it is said that if it is a really talented poet, that also we have seen Valmiki being the talented poet in the example, and how figures rush to the poet's pen and it flows on, and the alangaras are used even without anyone knowing it. It just comes out naturally from the pen of the poet, and there is nothing wrong with that because that is the apt way of using alangaras. So it is not something like the poet thinking of a figure to fit into this particular one and then using it. And so sometimes it may be appropriate, sometimes it may not be. But with a really talented poet, figures rush to the poet's pen. And when the mind is overflowing with rasa, then this is what happens. Alangaras comes naturally and it beautifies or it makes the poem all the more beautiful. And when we read the poem, rasa is created in our mind also. So, to Sahridaya, the poem, reading of the poem creates rasa in his mind. The poet creating these figures or writing the poem has a rasa filled mind, and it is from there you find the figures, the alangaras rushing in and decorating the body of the poem. So it is not superfluous, it just goes along with the poem. The examples given here are, first one is Pururuva's description of Urvashi, and you will find that it is Kalidasa, the great poet, who had written that about the poem about Pururuvas and Urvashi. And the beauty of Urvashi is the description that comes so naturally to the words, to Pururuvas, and the poet's pen just overflows with uh, the alangaras and rasa is created. The second example, as I've told you earlier, is that of Mudra Rakshasa. Here the instance is different. Earlier we have seen how the exiled minister of the Nandas, the Rakshasa, comes and just looks uh, at the garden of the palace, and he finds the water tank dry and weeds growing everywhere, which is taken to mean the apt condition of the dynasty of the Nandas at that time. The water tank means it is the source of energy and source of life, which is the king himself. It is dry in the sense that he is not doing anything, and weeds now have the appropriate name, or it is just the weeds. They are the flatterers surrounding the king, and altogether there is a desolate atmosphere for a once beautiful and well kept garden. And Ratchasa was thinking in terms of that. So here the same poem is taken and the instance is different. Mudrachasa is the example. In the glee of his success, Chanakya exclaims as he hears that Rakshasa has come, because he knew that Rakshasa just cannot keep himself away from the kingdom of the Nandas, because he had been serving them and he knew what it is to mean to have a good king for a country. But Chanakya had really created a situation and had planned everything, and because of that, the Nandas had exiled Rakshasa, the able minister, thus stepping or paving the first step towards their downfall. So now Chanakya is happy because his plans are going as per the directions that he had given, and everything is going properly, and he is so very happy. So he exclaims when he hears that Rakshasa has come, and that exclamation from Mudra Rakshasa is worth reading. And there you will find a lot of alankaras used appropriately and aptly, and we also become one with Chanakya, and we also partake his happiness or his extreme glee. Glee is not just happiness but uh, uh, excited uh, attitude, and all these are something that the poet had penned properly. So you find here that the rasa-filled mind of the poet can really create a beautiful poem filled with the proper alankaras. So the conclusion that we come from this is that a poet must be in rasa and must have infinite pratibha. Pratibha, that is something that makes a person a poet or even an artist. If you don't have a pratibha, you can just learn something and act out, but it won't be like the people who has the real pratibha and people who act it out. And in the same manner, a poet who has the skill or the talent, pratibha is the talent, and he will be his mind will be filled with rasa, and then he will be creating the uttama kavya, okay, the best kavyas. So that is one point that we have got from all this discussion. But to those poets who do not have this capacity, if they employ figures effectively, they will have to do so with a discrimination, and that discrimination we call as samecha. So you find here the poets like the critics and the Vardhana formulating rules, and he is not telling the others, that is, people who do not have pratibha, not to write poems. On the other hand, he gives them directions, and as per these directions, the those poets who do not have the capacity to write poems, who do not possess pratibha, if they employ figures effectively, figures like alankaras effectively, they will have to do so with discrimination, because they can decorate their poem, because their talent is not up to the poets who really have talents, but they still stagger on and they really want to write poems. So to those poets, Andardana gives certain directions, and he gives them where to use these alankaras, how to use it. They'll have to do so. They'll have to use these alankaras or the figures with discrimination, which we call as samecha. I hope you have now understood the way the poets and the poems work. Sometimes the poet has infinite pratibha. Of course, really talented poets really do have pratibha, and naturally their poems are excellent. There is no need to go anywhere to have your mind filled with rasa, because their poems, their words, their descriptions with alankaras fill your mind with the rasa, because while they were writing, their mind was filled with the rasa. So altogether, you find the overflowing of rasa in the mind of the poet, and figures rush in, so that there is no need for him to exert too much about the right choice of words or the right way of using the figures and even the alankaras. So those poets who do not have the capacity or the pratibha, can also write poems provided they employ the figures effectively, and that too with the discrimination, and with that discrimination we call as summation. Okay, so let's see what is summation. Anandavardhana formulates this into some principles, and they are he says that alankaras must be ancillary, means angabhuta, means they must be supportive of the main idea. They should not be the main idea, they should be supporting the main idea. That is why it is said that it must be ancillary or angabhuta. Then the second point is that they must never become the main, pradhana or angit. It must only be Angabhuta, it should never be Angin. The Alankaras must never become Pradhana or Angin. This is another formula or another principle that he formulates, because if you try to make Alankara the main of the poem, then there is nothing there. He had also told us earlier that in some cases Alankaras can also be made to take the role of the suggested element. That is exemplary. Okay, but if to an ordinary poet, he should be careful that he should not make Alankaras the Pradhana or Angin. And then the third point is the main theme should keep and throw away in accordance with the requirements of the main idea whatever is not necessary. Means the main theme should keep and throw away the alankaras which are not required with the requirements of the main idea. Main theme and main idea should go together, and the poet should use the alankaras in the proper manner. Fourth point, they must not be too much elaborated or overworked. Too much elaborated or overworked. This happens for like an epic simile. You can use an epic simile in an epic, but to use an epic simile in an ordinary poem will be too ambitious in the sense that it won't look good in that poem. And for a shorter poem, a short simile will be okay, but it should not be elaborated or overworked. So alankaras should not be elaborated or overworked in a poem. A good poet must take care to give them the position of anga only, and it should not be angin. It should be angabodha or ancillary, and it should remain as such. It should not be the main idea or the main theme. Okay, so here you find that these principles together form summation. Okay, so it is the proper manner of using alagara, and these are the points that Anderson gives, and I have told you why he had formulated these principles. Of course, these principles are not necessary in the case of a really talented poet or poet who possesses pratibha. But these rules are for people who aspire to be poets, who really wants to write a poem, but they really do not know how to go about it. And so a lot of rules are given. So if you write a poem with these rules supporting you, then you will be able to write a poem. It may not be as excellent as the ones written by poets with pratibha, but still it will be poems which are of readable quality, and their main point is that they should not make the alankaras the main pradhana or angin. It should only be anga or angabhuta. Okay, it should be only in the role of a supportive or that which helps to decorate the main idea or to make it look beautiful, and it should not be the main idea itself, and it must be supportive ancillary. Okay, so these points together make summation. Okay, then again towards the end, the writer or the critic says, poetry is neither pure emotion and thought, nor mere manner. It is not neither pure emotion and thought, nor mere manner. So here you find a sort of a definition, practical definition about poetry, and it is not pure emotion, because I am sure that you have gone through Wordsworth, and he says, he gives us a definition: emotions collected in tranquility, and when the heart is full, then the emotions just come forth, and then you can write poems. That is true to a certain extent, maybe with Wordsworth, who just argue that rules are not necessary for writing or composing a poem. But we are here at a period when Sanskrit poetry had these rules and regulations, and it had not come to the age of Wordsworth. So we were talking about a time far ahead of Wordsworth, the classical times, and it is these classical times that we relate Sanskrit to. So poetry is neither pure emotion and thought nor mere manner. So if it is just pure emotion, you will not give much importance to the using of the proper words, and emotion should be channelized properly. So to a really talented poet it is quite easy. But to a person who is all emotion and who has no skill in writing a poem, then the poem needs to be considered in a different manner, and care must be applied to make it right or to correct it properly. And thought or it is not mere manner. A beautiful idea must be appropriately dressed in beautiful expression. That goes without saying. Of course, the lady is beautiful, and we may say that she doesn't need any decoration. Of course, it is true. But even then, if you just decorate it in a slightly, or dress it in a proper manner with beautiful expression, it becomes all the more beautiful. So, a beautiful idea must be appropriately dressed in beautiful expression. That is alagara. The beautiful expression is the beautiful idea is already there, but it must be dressed beautifully with alagara so that people will notice it and will appreciate the beauty. Okay. Alangaras, the another aspect of Alangaras is it is a kind of summarizing. Alangara should flow out of rasa, means it must flow out of the rasa filled heart. So only if your heart is filled with the rasa, then Alangaras will flow out. It comes naturally to a poet with pratibha, but for a poet who is not filled with pratibha, then even then his mind should be filled with rasa, and alangara should flow out of that rasa and soul mind, and so you will have a rasa and soul kavya. So effective expression, the embodiment of the poet's idea, is alangara. The effective expression here means the proper expression to the proper dressing. The embodiment for the embodiment of the poet's idea is what we call as alankara. And the poet's idea is already there. You are using an effective expression and to dress it up, and that is also what we call as alankara. And again, here the critic comes to the conclusion, and the conclusion is that nature is the creation of God's leader, and poetry is the poet's leader. God created nature as He liked, and everything was okay. Everything was good. He found that after creation, God found that everything is good, and that is God's leader. We regard this world as God's leader, and poetry is the leader of the poet. Means the poet is playing with his lines and he's creating, he's creator. So in a way, like God created nature, the poet is creating poetry, and only very talented people can be real poets or can be really effective poets. So here you find two different types of poets, and in a way, Andavardhana is not discarding or trying to make the poets or a person who is aspiring to be a poet as he is not discouraging them, he is encouraging such people, but he gives a proper idea as to where to use alakara, how to use alakara, and how to make the beautiful idea of the poet all the more beautiful by dressing it up with a beautiful expression, which we call as alakara. Okay, so in the chapter called the use and abuse of alakara, you are getting a certain number of rules. But when we consider all the rules, we come to the conclusion that the really talented poets just do not need all these rules. But a mediocre poet who just aspire to be a poet, or a mediocre person who aspires to be a poet, will need all all these points which Andravdana gives, and if he follows them properly, then he will be able to write at least a very Madhyama Kavya, or almost a good poem. Okay, so he can't aspire to be too much, or he can't even reach up to Kalidasa or even Valmiki. They are excellent, or they are considered to be the poets of the day, and it is as if their mind is filled with rasa, and all the figures come to the tip of their pen. That is what they said. It comes so naturally. It is quite an ayasena. It comes quite without effort. With the ease it comes, so that the poem just overflows with that same rasa. With Alangaras, the main idea is clothed and it looks so good, so that when we, the Sahridaya, read the poem, our mind is also filled with rasa, and that is the ultimate aim of good poetry. Okay, so alankaras are not the main, it is only the supplementary or supportive to make the main idea all the more beautiful. So that is the conclusion, but you get a lot of points regarding Alangara. And you'll find questions towards the end of the lesson, and both the short questions and paragraph questions, which you can go through, and you'll find the answers for most in these slides. If not, you can read the text itself. Text reading is necessary, plus this, and you can also have a proper idea of writing an essay, and that also is necessary. Okay, so thank you for the day, and maybe for this year, and it's bye bye. We have finished all our portions. If you have any doubts, just call me and clear those doubts. Because once you learn Indian aesthetics, you really love that part. Because maybe I'm saying it from my personal experience. We were a generation who were taught all the rules and regulations of appreciating a poem and scanning a poem, and all the lines, all the grammar in Malayalam and also in English, so that we know what it is about Alangara, the different types of Alangara, everything we have done. So it is something that that helps us to appreciate a poem. But your generation was not given that idea, so we are just slowly giving you slight idea about the rules of writing a poem and how it brings out the rasa and the beauty of the poem. Okay, so thank you and read on, continue reading, and best wishes for your future.